Call this meeting to order. This is the Cascade Charter Township Planning Commission. Our meeting date is Monday, May 20th at 7 p.m. Like to record the attendance as all 7 members are present, which is great. Please join us now for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a motion to approve the current agenda.
So moved. To move. Oh, support.
Moved by member Bruno, supported by member Reese. All in favor, say aye. Aye. 6-0. Is there any conflict of interest?
I have one possible one that I'm close enough to one of the applicants tonight that I received the letter. I'm within 300 feet. But I would say it's almost equivalent to member Rowland's membership at the country club, and he's not a smoker. I have many of the same issues with deer. I know the applicant, but I'm not currently a neighbor. She's moved a parcel over. I don't have any vested interest in her orchard being a moneymaker or not, or anything like that. So I think I could be impartial, but I have many of the same issues with deer that she does, as do most members of the community, but wanted to point that out.
Yeah.
I
Okay,
don't
well,
see that.
thank you for being frank and honest about that. Does anybody have a concern about member Bruno?
Nope.
No. Okay. Like to approve the minutes of the May 6th, 2024 meeting.
I have one item for that.
Member Bruno?
See, it is PDF page 5, 5th paragraph from the bottom, and they loosely say paragraph 5th section maybe. It says member Bruno brought up the fact that Old 28th Street has a potential to change to a road structure, change the road structure to a one-way or pathway. I basically wanted to let the applicant know that that road might be changing and that they can plan for it. Can we capture? They said they're fully aware of that and they like to be essentially on the bleeding edge and are embracing that change. Because I would just hate for them to come back later and say we had no idea this was coming. It doesn't really capture the applicant's response to that.
Okay, and what would you like to add?
So it was amazing as I brought it up and it said applicant responded saying they would are very supportive of the concept and would love to be one of the first. They like to be on the leading edge.
Marisi?
I would make a motion to support the minutes with a change in wording to include the applicant's response. Staff could go back and look at the tape, put that in there.
Better yet, well said.
Support.
Okay, any other changes? Okay, all in favor of approval signify by saying aye. Aye. Any disapproval? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you all. I'd like to now acknowledge visitors and those wishing to speak on non-agenda items. Please come forward, state your name and your address, and you'll be limited to 5 minutes. Okay, everybody's here for an agenda item, it looks like.
Chairman Moxley, I would just like there's only one public hearing for Article 9, so public comment could be on Article 7 or Article 8 as well, just to note.
Okay,
Correct. Although our agenda says there's a public hearing for Article 10 as well. Is that not accurate?
Yeah.
Okay.
okay. Any public statements by visitors? Okay, let's move on to Article 7. First case, number 243836, Greencastle Properties LLC, Colin Scheifler. The address of 6151, 6157, and 6161 28th Street.
I'm gonna go ahead and speak for a minute and kind of give an overview if you guys, you're welcome to stand there. As you know, this is a basic site plan review for a PUD. We've kind of went back and forth with the applicant on whether we would amend the PUD 33 or do some kind of amendment to PUD 63, which is the existing Fox Motors, which is just to the west. The applicant has provided an application for an amendment to to PUD 63. Our zoning ordinance, chapter 16 for PUDs allows for a basic site plan review. You're going to see this twice tonight because we're going to actually allow this for a non-PUD item as well. But this is just meant for the applicant to provide minimal details to see if the planning commission would have an appetite for them moving forward. Do you have a question?
But if you're not done, I'll let you keep going. I was
Okay.
just gonna ask, so you're not looking for us to vote on any action?
No, there will be no actions. If you look at the end of your staff review, what we would be asking for is a recommendation for the planning department to move forward with setting a public hearing.
So this is,
You're just looking for feedback at this
Yes.
point.
so this is what we used to call a preliminary basic site
Correct.
plan review.
Correct. So yes, the word preliminary has been thrown around. The word in our ordinance is basic site plan review, and that's the language that you're hearing here. No decision should be made. If you look at the ordinance, what it says is after a basic site plan review, the planning commission would actually set a public hearing. I don't think that we're to that point. I think that the applicants want to be able to kind of go back and forth with the planning department to figure out and, you know, see the feeling towards this project. So I'm just asking that you would give the planning department the authority to then, if they choose to move forward, to set a public hearing for the item. That, you know, this, they'll know by the end of the day, probably if they want to move forward, if there is no interest in this.
Okay.
So yes, that's,
Gentlemen, please
Can I
introduce
ask
yourselves.
Could I have a question for staff?
Sure.
Chairman Moxley?
Yes.
Thank you. Andrea, because it is a PUD, if, let's just say hypothetically, a member of the planning commission or the planning commission as a whole doesn't have an appetite for an additional car dealership, are we under any obligation to approve it?
no. No, to approve them moving forward.
Yes.
I think that everybody always has the right, you know, for a denial. So the
Certainly,
question,
but if we
yeah.
can give them that feedback that this body has
Yeah.
no,
so I think that what you would do is
Okay.
say that you want to set a public hearing
yep,
on your own. And then they're willing to put the work into actually putting the whole application together.
thank you.
Member Bruno.
I have an additional question for staff. So we're in the process of amending our master plan. And the flow chart of the master plan amendment is that we basically are going to redo our zoning, correct?
Correct.
And McKenna has spoken to us publicly many times that PUDs are something we should be moving away from,
Correct.
as opposed to embracing more of.
Correct.
We also, I'm a member of the Farmland Committee, which is also looking, and I believe we have a draft amendment to the PUD section talking about kind of like some preservation. Is there currently, even if we wanted to act on this, is there currently, for lack of a better word, an embargo on PUD approvals and denials at the moment, since we're in process?
No,
Moratorium, thank you.
no,
No?
I think that the first time that we met about this was probably February or March. And we've always been very clear how the township feels about PUDs, future PUDs. And I said, I'm almost positive, but I can't make a decision for the planning commission, that if you were to come with a new PUD, that the answer would likely be no. Obviously, I can't speak for you, but staff has made it very clear that there's really no appetite for PUDs, and that if there is any new PUDs, that there's going to be very clear standards that are laid out in section 16 for why we would approve PUDs. So it's not that they can apply. There's nothing in our process that says they can apply, but it would be somewhat inconsistent with the master plan that we're about to adopt.
Any other questions for Andrea?
One quick question. I'm not sure that this has necessarily anything to do with what we're about to talk about, but Charlevoix Woods Court Southeast is something that we've discussed in the previous year. Do you know if there's anything in the works currently to sort of maybe give the fire department more access to that or straighten it out or
Like-
widen it?
I have no idea. We haven't had any conversation with the planning commission or with the fire department about
Okay, thanks.
any that section.
Okay, gentlemen, feel free to introduce yourselves.
Hi, my name is Eric DeYoung. I'm with the Planning Department of Naderveld. We're a surveying, civil engineering and land planning company here in Grand Rapids.
What's your first name?
Eric.
Eric, okay, welcome.
Thank you. Pleasure.
My name is Colin Scheffler. I'm Vice President of Real Estate with DP Fox Ventures, which is the parent company of the Fox Motors Group and Greencastle Properties, who's the applicant here tonight. So yeah, I guess I'll turn it over to Eric just to kind of start out the presentation, and I'm here to answer any questions. I also have some other representatives of our group, including Mr. Dan DeVos here this evening. And we're happy to answer any questions and talk this through as we go. So thank you.
Welcome.
I have one question. How many dealerships do you guys have on 28th Street that are Fox?
So currently Fox on within Cascade Township, it's just the neighboring property, which is PUD 67. So it's Fox Audi and Porsche, which is a combined location, Fox Subaru and Fox Subaru pre-owned.
Okay, and then your proposal here for new dealerships, are there gonna be any body shops in there
No,
and these new ones?
no,
Electric,
no collision work whatsoever, no.
electric car, battery storage?
There could be a component of some electric with the way the kind of industry is going. At Porsche, we have an approved external container that we're using there, just like a shipping container essentially, that's fire rated and sealed off and approved by the fire department. And more recent dealerships, we've kind of been building a fire enclosed room that meets those standards for that battery storage and things like that.
Okay.
But yeah, typically we're not storing those batteries, taking them out of vehicles and storing them on site. That's kind of worst case scenario, but we plan for that in the event that it's needed.
And then I see we're getting pretty close to residential properties here on this one for a dealership versus an office building. What precautions are you taking for that to protect them from light, protect them from noise?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, we operate Monday through Friday, 9 AM to 6 PM, Saturdays, limited hours typically for sales, maybe a little bit of service in the morning, but we're done by 2 o'clock on Saturdays. There's no operations on Sundays. We would maintain kind of a buffer, a landscape buffer along that and be willing to kind of look at different options or scenarios to increase that buffer or build that up. It's really not a whole lot different with the parking lot that's currently there and currently abuts up to that. Thornapple Excavating, one of the tenants that's in the building, you know, a lot of times has big trucks and things back there that they're parking and moving around and traffic back there, whereas for Fox, it would really only be for the storage of vehicles. So they wouldn't really be moving around a lot. They'd be kind of housed back there until they're sold. Lighting, all the newest LED shielded fixtures, motion controls so that those would step down when they don't sense motion for a period of time. And then obviously with motion, they'd kick back on for a period of time, but after hours, we kind of limit that so that they're not staying on longer than they need to or continuing to turn.
Member
on.
Reese?
Mr. Chair, I think we have a point of order here. We owe it to them to do their presentation, I think, before we get into a questioning session. I mean, that's typically we'll let the applicant have their opportunity to present, and I think we should let them do that, and then we can ask, because they might answer half of these questions in their presentation, and we don't need to listen to it twice,
Have
right?
more, so go ahead.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to share with you. Your planning staff report does include a lot of the details to kind of tee this up for us, but I want to walk through a couple of the basics and show you what we're looking at here. We're proposing enfolding, and I'm going to show you the zoning. I have snipped our current zoning map and enlarged it here. So you can see our current zoning environment. This is directly from the township's zoning map. And basically, I've mimicked this here to illustrate our site. The subject property is located in green here.
I'm sorry, can you flip back that previous one since you're driving, just to give us a quick second to gather that.
Yeah, so the entire township is indicated here. I've simply blown up the subject region
So
here.
About 67 and 33, thank you.
Yep, so 33 is the current home of the subject properties. 67 is the adjacent parcels. So you can see this kind of shape here, and I've just mimicked that subject portion here to make it a little more clear. So this is the existing PUD environment right now in this area. The Subaru dealer is here. Our subject parcels here that we're going to talk about tonight are located in green. Here's the Charlevoix Woods Court that was previously mentioned. And what we're proposing is enfolding the subject parcel here into PUD 67. So this blue hatch is the subject property, and we're wanting to include that into PUD 67, as well as a small portion of what is 58. So this subject parcel here is hashed and would be proposing to be included into 67. So in talking briefly about uses, Andrea and our team have talked, and it is currently unknown whether PUD 33 would permit the type of proposed use that we're talking about, and this is 2 auto dealerships. We do know PUD 33 and the master plan permit commercial uses for this area, and 28th Street in this area in the master plan is continued to be a commercial corridor. The master plan has designated this area as 28th Street mixed use. And I'm going to skip to our site plan if I may. And you can see kind of the shape mimicked above here is the subject parcels here. And this is a proposed concept site plan. Again, the master plan has designated this area for 28th Street mixed use. Permitted land use in this designation include commercial, medical, and office. And we are, of course, proposing a commercial use, and adjacent to the applicants as the existing Fox Subaru dealer. Page 45 in the master plan envisions things like cross-access easements, attractive signage, high-quality buildings, site design, buildings with high-quality materials, all of the types of things that we are proposing. The master plan indicates that the appropriate zoning district for this designation is still PUD. And page 45, it says PUDs are still the preferred zoning instrument for this. And this is an amendment to a PUD, which we are proposing. And then we are seeking not to create a new PUD, but to simplify the PUD configuration by incorporating these portions into PUD 67. Overall, we'd be seeking 2 departures from the underlying B2 zoning. Lot width, overall, we are proposing, this portion includes 358 feet of frontage. However, we are proposing 2 buildings with a cross-access drive. One of the parcels would be smaller than and we are proposing 1.5 acre site for the eastern dealership depicted here. So looking at the township standards for the PUDs, we are confident the proposed plan would satisfy the standards. The adjacent parcels included in PUD 67 have previously been found on multiple occasions by the Planning Commission to satisfy the standards. And through multiple amendments, the most recently approved amendment being in 2021. The proposed use and the density is compatible with the area and the intent and the spirit of the township plan. So while there are a number of specifics still to be proposed, we're asking for your affirmation of the proposed use and the merits of an amended PUD for this area. That's what we're coming to share with you tonight.
Okay, Colin, any comments?
No, I guess I'm open to questions and kind of talking through the rest of these conditions or anything we have here.
Okay, questions?
Timmy's got a lot of them down there.
Member Richardson.
Two quick questions for you guys. There is a Fox Kia 2.5 miles west of this currently, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So will that one be just sort of separated from the Hyundai?
Correct. So,
I see.
yeah, they are the same parent company, but they essentially are not playing well together in the same box. So we are under a requirement to split them.
Okay.
And so that's kind of what is ultimately driving this is to have a separate location.
And then my second question about the one to the right, well, to the east of the Kia, it says proposed future dealership. Now that would be another dealership. It wouldn't be a situation where I forgot what it's called, but near the Acura dealership or the Nissan dealership, there was like a car wash. I'm not sure if that's still there.
Correct. Our
This is
detail-
not gonna become
details-
another car wash.
No,
right?
correct. There's no car wash proposed for this property.
Thank you.
Member Nordhook.
Okay, so I'm going back to where I was here. I have quite a few residents have contacted me about this and they're not in favor of it. So I guess my question is, what would be a community benefit that would, I'm not seeing anything here that you guys would be proposing.
Sure. I guess could I start by just understanding what those concerns are?
We have plenty of car dealerships.
Okay.
They they're opposed to another one, I guess,
Okay.
not plus two.
Yeah,
Unless
and
you own a Kia, it doesn't benefit
Sure,
your Cascade
sure.
resident.
Well, I guess, I mean, to say plenty of car dealerships, I mean, there's 4 currently, 3 of them owned by Fox, all part of PUD 67. So I guess I just want to be careful how we kind of look at that and talk about that. I mean, in my opinion, it feels like it's better to keep these car dealerships together, keep them consolidated under one PUD that kind of controls how everything's done, how it kind of makes it a better situation for the Cascade Township and the residents. Better situation for Fox, keeping everything close to one another. You know, as opposed to, 11 banks, 22 franchise restaurants, everything else. I think it's maybe a little bit unfair to pick on 4 car dealerships that are currently in place, but
Member Nordhook.
I want to follow up, Mr. Scheffler, if I could, on trustee Nordhook's question, because you didn't answer it.
oh, sure, yeah, no.
How many car dealerships does DP Fox have on 28th Street?
Within Cascade
No, that's
Township?
not what the question was.
Oh, okay.
How many car dealerships does DP Fox own on 28th Street?
Fox Ford. Fox,
Even Hyundai.
Fox Nissan, Fox Kia and Hyundai, which is one location. Fox Audi Porsche, which is one location. Fox Subaru and Fox Subaru Pre-owned.
None further in Granville.
In Granville, no,
So how many is that total?
6.
6? Is that your, okay,
And 2 more coming.
2 more, so it would be 6 plus 2. So you're proposing 8.
But don't forget, there's also Honda and Mazda on old. 29th
Correct, yeah, I'm
Street.
not.
But I mean,
counting-
they're not, it's not on 28th Street, but on. 28th.
Have you looked for real estate in Kentwood?
Yes,
And,
nothing.
got it. Thank you.
Member Bruno.
All right, so I have a litany of questions. Maybe I can elaborate on some of these concerns more. So in terms of your proposal, so PUD 58, there's currently a piece of land, I think you called it the hatched portion or the hashed portion. That's currently your dog run, so that's already.
No, that's not currently part of our property.
Yeah, if I can
That's-
just show you here, the dog run is right here.
One second, I have to switch.
Yeah,
screens
no
here, so
worries.
You're pointing it.
Yeah,
Oh,
the
dog runs right-
the
oh,
dog
yeah,
park
okay.
exists right
Oh, okay,
here.
So it's,
Yep.
all right, it's in front of, okay.
Yep.
So. Just thinking holistically, it sounds like it's not making much progress here, but if this were to move forward, the yellow area that you've now hashed.
Mhm.
You have an agreement in place to move forward with that, or is that something that's conditional?
This kind of like L-shaped, backwards L-shaped piece is the subject parcel.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that is part of the property that we currently
Yeah,
have.
part of the property, okay.
That we're
Alright.
considering, yeah.
Next question, based on Mr. Richardson, so you have was a Hyundai dealer, right? No, this is Kia. So you have a Kia dealership and a proposed dealership. So is this gonna be built out in 2 phases?
Correct, that's what we'd envision. The first phase being Kia, which is the immediate need
Okay,
and then probably 2 to 5 years for a future location.
and what would that future location look like in the interim?
Yeah, no 100% guarantee at this point, but it's most likely Porsche.
Okay. But in the, while it's not being built, is it green space? Is it construction sitting like half done for
I
a
would
few years?
envision
or-
it to be green space until we elect to build.
And
We
I
would
think
want it sitting left in an unfinished condition. and-
exactly,
and,
that would
yeah,
be
no.
a concern of mine.
Right.
And I think the next question, I also have gotten some feedback, even though I'm not a board member. It's the displacement, what I've heard is the displacement of all the small businesses.
Sure.
So it's not just, we don't need the dealership. If it was an empty field, maybe another dealership, but there's a lot of small businesses in there that our community relies on. So to displace all of those for one select Kia or Porsche. And how do we address that? So I go back to, what does the community gain from it? So I'm gonna go out on a limb here. We have I believe it's a draft, maybe it's pre-draft ordinance where we're looking at for PUDs, and the whole concept of a PUD is you're asking for special treatment, let's say, right? If I go to the actual PUD ordinance, I believe it says, see if I can find it here quickly. Section 16.032 PUD use regulations or PUD regulations. Planned unit developments are meant to be a tool that municipalities use to relax certain zoning ordinances. So you're asking for essentially a favor, as I would, in layman's terms, in exchange for benefits to the community. I think that was member trustee's question. So unveiling kind of where we're going as a township is green spaces at a premium. My question is so that we can see that community benefit, what we're going towards as a community in the PUD section is what I call like a green space offset. So at 7 acres roughly, I think the future, I'm speaking a bit out of line because it's not there yet. We're thinking that 50% offset. So would you be game on doing a purchase of a park of approximately 3.5 acres or purchase of a parcel that could become a park? Is that something you have thought about? So that you could actually live up to the whole idea of a PUD? You get something, the community gets something. The community gets something is the black box right now.
I have not put a lot of thought into that. I'm willing to obviously bring that up to the table and discuss it with our group and see what options are out there. I don't fully understand the financial parameters of it and how that would all work in this, but would it be an option? Yes.
Okay, that's, I sense a lot of hostility from my members.
Sure.
And I'm trying to be more communicable and like,
I think
I'm kind of with them. I don't really want to displace a bunch of small businesses my fellow citizens rely on for a Kia and maybe a Porsche. But if my community, if my citizenry is going to get something out of the transaction, I could be persuaded otherwise.
Yeah,
Understood.
and I'm on the way on the other end of that community benefit. You're standing in one called the Wisner Center. It was a community benefit, and the park down there, Leslie Tassel Park, was another community benefit. So that's way on the other end of the spectrum, but we do have green space coming, and I would like to see something for the community to have in exchange for a car dealership that I'm here and they don't want. So I'm still open.
Planning Director Henry.
Yes, two things. I do want to really clearly state out that our zoning ordinance in 1603 1A determines, why we would approve. It says demonstration of ability. A proposed planned unit development must demonstrate that, and we have must, maybe it's not shall, but we have to demonstrate all of these. Demonstrate that granting of the planned unit development rezoning will result in a recognizable and substantial benefit to the ultimate users of the project and to the community, whereas such benefit would otherwise be unfeasible and or unlikely to be achieved. So I wanted to kind of reiterate what you had requested and say, this can't be done anywhere else. I also, in speaking with the applicant, we addressed some of the Charlevoix Drive challenges to the south or to the north and some of the vacant land there and said, this could be a feasible PUD or would, in my opinion, be more of a feasible PUD if you addressed some of the issues that we have with Charlevoix Drive, with these weird little underutilized parcels to the north. If you could partner with other people to make it feasible, it may be more appealing.
That's a good
Chair,
point.
can I address the
Parisi?
Charlevoix Drive aspect here? I don't want to cloud things here, but and correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't the concerns we usually hear about Charlevoix Drive to the west of Walmart, not to the east?
I can address.
And
that.
this subject property is to the east, so
can
I think
address
it's
that.
all.
The emergency, I believe, this is gonna be layman's terms, but the fire department requires 2 ingress and egress points. And currently for the senior center on Charlevoix, directly behind the Subaru, the emergency exit is a fire lane through the Subaru dealership. Are you aware of that?
Correct.
That's, I guess for lack of a better word, a issue.
but that was adequate for the
That
fire
was-
department when they approved the Subaru
Correct. That was
dealership.
a requirement. for
But
Subaru.
they're now wanting to do more development back there.
Yeah, I think there's going to be development pressure for probably, we have some applicants that have
For more.
submitted conceptual designs for more senior housing behind there. And it's definitely an area that we need to,
I guess I would think that would be their issue, not this applicant's issue, but
I can kind of see that somewhat. Back to the benefit of the community, like this sentence here, substantial.
I guess that could be part of a benefit, maybe. Yeah.
A better plan.
Just want to be careful, we're
No,
in the right silos here.
I have a couple of questions for either of you. How many businesses are in those buildings that currently exist in this parcel?
Approximately 20 to 25.
And what's the vacancy rate?
Actually, the owner is here this evening, but I think the last rent roll I looked at was a couple months ago and it was probably 85 to 90% occupied. Granted, a lot of that space is storage, rental space, lower level suites that they're just using for storage of existing tenants at a reduced rate,
Okay,
but yeah. It's important to note too, those current leases do have an out clause. Every single one of them has an out clause for a potential sale of the property that would be triggered within 7 days of a sale of the property, where they would be given notice to terminate their lease. So these tenants are aware that this is happening. They've received their notice from the current owner. They knew as they came in and signed those leases or been renewing those leases over the years that this was a potential, that this was coming. A lot of them are on just month-to-month leases at this time too.
yes.
Is that a
Okay.
fair representation? You've got people who've been there for 20 years. I would really caution you in what you're saying and how you're approaching it. You
No,
have-
I understand. I
Finish,
don't,
please.
I,
Let me finish, please.
sorry.
You have tenants that have been there for over 20 years. If they're on a month to month, I suspect it is because of the current ownership putting them on a month to month. You have 20 tenants that may not want to leave, and I think to characterize it that they had notice, I would caution you in
I
how
would
you approach that
Just
with this
stating fact.
committee.
Apologize if you took it the wrong way. Believe me, we don't take this lightly. We don't look at displacing these tenants as a good thing.
So what are you
We want
doing to assist these tenants as they look for other lower cost alternatives within our township?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's not really within my purview to help. these
I
tenants.
suggested something you consider as a community benefit.
Okay.
Thank you.
Other questions?
I
Member
would-
Bruno?
I'd kind of say, I had my hand up for that, like, so it's an unusual situation because it's a PUD. And it's back to, again, 1A is it's got to be substantial benefit to the community. Displacing businesses is a detriment to the community. So, if possibly this concept of, like, what do we want to call it, a carbon offset, buying a part parcel or something and making benefit to the community, at a minimum, I would say a placement service for these businesses are displacing would go a long way to showing a benefit for the community.
Right. I mean, I have talked with Andrea and I know that there is a community development director that was interested in talking to some of these users about bringing them to other locations within the township. Obviously, we'd be more than happy to help facilitate that, provide contact info and set meetings up. But we just weren't at a point to do that yet because we don't want people starting to leave and looking for other things and until we have an understanding of where this is all headed.
It's more of a comment than it is a
Alan.
question. So first off, I'm a big car guy, right? My kids have Audis, so we're at Fox quite a bit. Great dealership. I've had the chance to interact with Mr. DeVos a couple of times around cars and things like that. Great. Love the family. You guys have done wonderful things for Grand Rapids. Thank you. I for one appreciate all you guys have done, right? I'm just telling you, I don't see anything that's gonna get me off of, I wouldn't approve this. I wouldn't give a thumbs up. I don't think it's good for the community. I don't think it's good for the residents, right? I don't think it benefits them. I'm not saying that you can't come to me with something that changes my mind, but right now, I don't see it. Even adding a park or helping these 20 businesses place somewhere else, I probably wouldn't. That probably wouldn't move me, right? I don't know what would. I'm just telling you, and I think there's probably others that on the board that probably feel the same and on the township trustee board as well. So I don't know what to tell you. I wouldn't approve this.
Member Bruno?
And again, this is the whole point of this is a basic review to give you feedback.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be more constructive as to like, rather than just saying no, things that olive branches, I guess. So has there been any thought to being on the bleeding edge and like, so you have this overflow lot in the back? Can it be a permeable surface? Like I look at this and this is a lot of impermeable surface. This is, I don't know what the ratio is. I could calculate it, but is this 80% impervious? Like, have you looked at, so the overflow lot is essentially green, water penetrates. I think there's a lot of things you could do and the list might be long to get it approved. And it sounds like you might not sway one member ever, but I look at some of this and say that, there's
Way more than one.
there's things you, probably more than one, there's things you could do to, I think, really start putting your best foot forward.
Okay,
Open, I just want to hear when you come back, what you've got for the community, and I'll keep an open mind.
Yeah. Keep an open mind too.
Member Reese?
I obviously I would have an open mind to this, but I will say that this year, this is probably the item that I've heard the most feedback from people in the community, and over half the concern is this, ugh, not another dealership. That's kind of the comment. And then the other half is compassion for the businesses that are there. But I think maybe some of that is they have fond memories of a former business that was there that probably isn't there anymore. But still, that seems to be the feedback I hear. But there certainly has been more feedback about this or more chatter about this than anything else that I've seen come across our desk this year so far.
I would propose that we go around the table, starting with member Nordhook, to give a general feedback in a brief statement, pro or con for what you're seeing.
Again, I'm open-minded on this. I want to hear what you come back with. The community benefit is very important to me. I've had the same comments. I think it sounds like others have. Worried about the businesses, worried about another car dealership out there. Several employees will be displaced. Residents are just a little burned out on car dealerships all up and down 28th Street. So if there's something that can push it, I'm open.
Member Richardson?
We're just giving random commentary.
Yes.
Charlevoix Woods Court, as I said earlier, troubles me. If somehow that could be, I don't see, a fire truck driving quickly through the Subaru dealership to get back there as a long-term solution. Now, I know that this isn't something that is your problem necessarily, and I'm not sure how it was ever approved by the fire department. But if that was something that was somehow addressed or fixed, I would see that as a community positive. I also, as Member Bruno mentioned, I'm very pro park space, green space, and if that was also something that was addressed in a positive way for the community, I think that would be helpful. What I do also feel for some of the tenants in these places, kind of need to be in our community because most of their customers, I guess, if you will, are super local, more local than maybe people that might come out to buy a Kia. And that's a concern that we would be displacing kind of key commercial shops in our community. Otherwise, I think everything else I feel about this has been already addressed by everybody else as well.
Member Bruno,
I think I've mentioned several things that would might sway me. It might take the whole grouping, but kind of a couple parting comments. I've lived here 20 years now, and I do have some fond memories of, I actually took a TV back in the day to Blackie's. I don't know how many people have. When I first moved, they're like, cool, my TV broke in transit from California and Blackie actually fixed it. But I don't misrepresent. I walked the property today over lunch. It's a bit of an eyesore. If you walk it, and you didn't know what it was, you almost might think it's condos or apartments. I saw a lot of 80s vertical blinds and slider doors, and it's like, is that an apartment with a balcony or is that a business? There are pallets everywhere. There's paint missing. It is in a bit of disarray. So I don't have any nostalgia to that. Wow, it's such a beautiful property. Why would we convert to car dealership? I'll give you guys credit. Your car dealerships are usually pristinely maintained. They look very nice. They are a car dealership, but they're very well maintained. So I don't think it would be a difference of an eyesore. But my final concern is I had lunch and then walked over. Actually, I walked over, then had lunch, and I had to happen to have this paperwork out at my table at New Beginnings. And the gal said, is that dealership that's maybe going next door? We told them no, they offered to buy our place. One thing that would probably make me also reconsider this is, where does it end? Is like, I don't know if you can legally do this. I'm thinking way outside the box, but is there a statement if we approve this, that this sprawl of PUD 67 ends? You have no more plans of buying New Beginnings and the next one and the next one and the next one and the next one and the next one. I don't know if that's even legally possible, but that's my next concern is, and I don't know if the gal, it was just a waitress, I don't know if she was correct, but that's in the back of my mind too, is I don't want to see car dealerships from my house to the expressway.
yeah, understood. Member Reese,
Oh, you're skipping yourself?
well, I'll get there.
Smart play. So I guess, there's some, looking at this based on the ordinance, it's a special use. It's less acreage than the minimum requirement typically. It's narrower frontage on 28th Street than we typically would look at. We've bent on those things before. I would like to see some sort of benefit, try to justify things. We've done that in the past, trying to justify with certain benefits, the Charlevoix Woods thing, I feel that you guys addressed that with the Subaru dealership, and I think it's wrong to have you readdress something that you already addressed to our liking, even if it was just a few years ago. I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think that's a good argument to or thing to weigh on you guys, but do that as you may. Might help you pick up some votes down there. I'd have an open mind to this, but in its current form, I would be a no.
Member Nordike,
Look, I'm supportive of what you have done for the community and your dealerships. I think they're clean. I think they're well run. I'd like to see something that benefits the community. I'd like to see some compassion for these tenants. Some of them have been here for 20+ years. If you think what happened in Ada when those tenants were displaced, they were moved. I'd like to see something that you're doing so that the tenant that has a finite budget isn't losing their place of business in Cascade, because a lot of them provide valuable services to this community. I've heard the same thing. I wouldn't say it's 50-50. I'd say every person that approached me said, we don't need another car dealership. So we need to go back to those citizens and say, this is why we approved it. These are the things that they did. And that's what it would take. So I would really encourage that. I concur with Member Rissy. The Charlevoix Woods thing, I think you did address that in the Subaru dealership, so I'm not as concerned about that. But I would concur that you'll probably get some votes down the way, if that's something you're willing to do. But I would like to see a pretty sizable community, whatever that is, and I would encourage you to work with Andrea and team to identify that, but also I want to see something happen with those local businesses.
Member Roland?
You know, I remember when the first dealership went in, you made the comment about 4 dealerships isn't that much, and Zoom went in. Dr. Campbell, I love that dealership. It was a great dealership, and now we've got 4. And now we're looking at adding 5 and 6. I mean, it's, again, where's it gonna end, right?
What would Jack Lewis say?
Your dealerships are beautifully maintained, you know, everything you guys do is class act, and the people that work there are great. But again, now we're having, it serves the citizens outside of Cascade, because generally speaking, most of the citizens in Cascade aren't gonna be buying Kias, so people from other townships are gonna come here. So it doesn't serve our citizens, right? And it hurts 20+ businesses. And so I think, again, I'm gonna keep an open mind, right? I'm not saying, no, it's not, I'm just saying I don't know what you could come with to change my mind. I mean, a park wouldn't do it for me. I don't know, right? Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to give my 2 cents on this. Yeah, I go to Blackie's TV once in a while. I appreciate what he's done for my TVs and other things, electronics. I am not in favor of taking those businesses and tossing them out of there. The buildings are tired. Kind of an awkward topography in there. But I just can't see kicking those folks out of there, no matter what. And I don't think we need another car dealership. Like to turn over to member Bruno.
I have one last one, and I hope this isn't out of line, but I hate to point out an issue without offering maybe a remedy. So I sharpened my pencil and I looked at some of the green spaces that we've been contemplating as a township. And one that struck my eye that is about the right size of the kind of 50% preservation. At Forest Hills Public Schools Administration Building, that parcel is about 3.5 acres. And correct, I don't believe if I'm certain of this, but I believe that that is about to go up for sale. They have moved to a new location by the Aquatic Center. So if you want to start
that's sold.
looking, that might be an opportunity.
Not that it had closed already, but
I don't know. As I said, I might be completely out of line. I just looked at parcels that are about that size.
Okay. All right, so you got our feedback. Any final comments you'd like to make?
I thank you for your time, and yeah, we'll get to work.
Okay,
Thank
thank you
you.
for your time. Like to move on to article number 8, the case number 243837. West Michigan Brick and Stone, Tony Bonema. Andrea, any comments?
Nope, sorry, hold on. I was distracted. Not on my game.
You
Let me
fall
pull up
asleep over
my
there, did you?
Staff report. So this is a similar item as the one that we just heard. This is actually not a planned unit development, but considering that we don't have a process for an applicant to come in without a full site plan review, I use this section to justify allowing the applicant to come in with minimal plans, just to do the same thing that we just did, to say, this is kind of the general idea that we're thinking, we'd like to potentially purchase this. So could we, hear from the planning commission? This is a very awkward lot located between 60th and M6 on the south side of the township. We did go back and look at the master plan for this, has this allocated as airport zoning. And there'd be a couple steps. So I'd like you to consider, when you're listening to what the applicant would like to do, that if we were to allow for, if the applicant was to move forward, there'd have to be a couple different steps. We have our master plan coming up. In our master plan review, as one of our small amendments, we would take this portion I can't hook my computer up, can I? Do you have a picture of your property with you right now?
I think you want to send us to page 24 of 63.
Yeah. Yeah, you can look at the map. So. So this is a section that within our master plan right now, this is airport, and one of the recommendations, we were to move forward. The property just to the west of that is industrial, so I would recommend that we would change this to industrial as well. We can address that further when we're looking at the uses that are allowed.
When you say to the west, how far west are you referring to? Okay,
So this is airport, this is industrial. This is. Actually, this might, I'm sorry.
yeah, I think that's.
Yeah. The cover page.
It's in here.
And I could.
Which
could we
page,
include the
Chris?
future land use? So
Right
we
here.
would take this small portion in between 60th and M6. And allocate that for industrial uses. So then any other industrial uses would still be, regulated by the airport, runway, I don't remember what the overlay is called for the airport. It would still be regulated by.
Overlay
lot
B.
area requirement, what?
It's overlay B, I believe.
Overlay B, yes.
B, yeah.
So that might change through the process. This is just future land use. This is not changing any zoning right now. We would be talking about just making sure to change our future land use if we found that was appropriate. So that when we did the zoning ordinance amendments, that we would rezone that to industrial.
Would we make that transition industrial?
I don't know, what you mean, I'm sorry.
TI,
It's
Industrial.
actually industrial right there.
So
It's actually industrial, not transitional industrial.
Okay, my,
remember Bruno, just a second.
So we're all on the same page because we did, we worked on all those overlays. So basically, I believe it was member Richardson's idea of basically development should be craft west. So the industrial is on both sides of craft. That's really what you're showing. So we would be going against that kind of mentality of craft west. We're now going back to creeping industrial east again. Is that correct? For this one little, it'd be like an L shape.
I feel like I have to just look at it. Yeah, it is. So I think we're saying both sides of craft.
We have, from the beginning-
So that
from the beginning,
could
but
be-
this is both sides, being the parcels that abut craft were industrial.
Yeah.
So now we're going 1 degree of freedom farther east.
Sure.
Remember
The
Reese,
parcel that abuts,
remember Reese?
I think member Bruno's correct. We just redrew the
Just
future
got that
land
done.
use map, what, last year?
I'm not sure the ink is dry.
To change this to being just airport.
We're still in
to prevent
litigation.
the-
We're still in litigation.
To prevent that-
Could be for years.
Yeah.
To prevent that creep to the east, that was
Yes.
the idea. And if it was to be industrial and you were to build anything there, it would require water and sewer to be extended to that parcel.
Which water and sewer is actually allocated to that area.
It's not far from there?
Our water
You
and
say
sewer.
allocated like it's there?
So I'm gonna look at this because we're,
Cause I thought it was quite a ways away.
Yeah, that was my
I thought so
understanding as
too.
well.
our master plan has water and sewer within this.
Okay.
I'm pulling up our master.
How
plan.
close is it to that
Okay,
parcel?
why don't you gentlemen introduce yourselves and who you represent?
My name is Jason Haywood, and I'm here representing West Michigan Brick and Stone. This is Tony Bono.
Welcome.
Yeah, so we currently run and operate West Michigan Brick and Stone from 4196 Thornapple River Drive. We were a tenant there and really have just outgrown that space. And knowing that the current business running there at some point is going to want that space back. So we are looking for a new home for that business. So we are a landscape supply company that specializes in retaining wall materials as well as paving materials. So brick pavers, retaining walls, hardscape type materials. So we're asking for consideration of the property at 6103 60th Street, which we just discussed, and just asking if there's any appetite to allow for a business like ours in that spot.
Yes.
Like they were saying, we just changed the zoning. Is there a reason why you're not going into the industrial area over here? They have some vacant lots. Where? Alpha Craft.
I looked here on the corner, that's all locked up by Lax.
Lax has got, yeah, they want to do a building there. Is there any other parcels in that?
Looked all over.
Yep, not that we found.
And you're currently where?
4196, right across from FedEx and UPS terminals.
Okay.
Other questions? Member Reese?
Not really as much as a question as a statement, I guess, if that's permissible. So under the industrial zoning, then what would, because when you say you're more of a supplier of landscape materials, I think of our, really, I think of our ARC zoning where we require a minimum of 15 acres with a greenhouse or nursery being part of the operation.
That just
Would you consider live plants?
not at this time, no. No, it's larger than
A lot of us in that industry have had to do that in order to be in Cascade.
If
Because
you
that's the,
could not
that's the
get there,
bonus for the
unless you had
community.
live plants, would you consider a plan that had live plants?
Consider it, but again, the 15 acre thing.
But the 15 acres won't work with 8.8, so it's a moot point, which puts you back on the industrial side.
Yep.
So under the industrial zoning, then what is the, and maybe this is a question more for Andrea, but what is the heading that they would fall under? Because I don't know that a retail establishment fits in industrial zoning. I'm just
So-
looking at this from the,
It wouldn't be a retail establishment. I'm trying to quick pull that up. So this is actually
We are a
something
wholesale.
that is, what did you say?
We're a distributor. or wholesaler,
right,
So
but
we're
you
not
were-
retail.
you were looking at it from from private contractor storage and service yard. And in the past, our township has taken the stance that that's not for the sale of wholesale goods. That's more for like, the example that was given to me from a former planning director was that's more for storage yard for like Consumers Energy to store trucks or the cable company or something of that nature. It's not for commerce necessarily.
That's not necessarily clear, like in our zoning ordinance
Well,
is when I.
two planning directors have given me that same spiel. In fact, one of them was specific to this parcel in the past. So I'm just, that's my perspective.
So,
Alan?
yeah, so you're a distributor, and so landscaping companies will come to you guys to pick up the block. All right, so potentially a lot of increased traffic on that road, big vehicles, right? Weighted down, which is gonna beat up the road quicker than normal. I mean, they're gonna be, I mean, there's only two ways to go, right? So, yeah, it's on the backside of the airport, but I mean, and so traffic may or may not be a big deal, but you know, how long is that road gonna last? I mean, and again, big trucks carrying big stones.
Yeah, they're heavy loads.
Yeah.
Okay,
Is that road- isn't that
Member
road-
Norduck.
I have a question for staff.
It is, yeah.
Can we even approve this while we're under lawsuit from the airport on zoning? This isn't even, the ink's not dry on this, it hasn't been settled yet. How can we
I don't
approve
know, what
this?
the lawsuit, I don't know, this has
Separate.
nothing to do with
Yeah. it's
the
practically a
lawsuit.
piece of property.
Well, they're challenging the
But it's
future
they're
land use
challenging the
map.
overlays.
They're
And
charging
this
the
is an overlay. It is outside the overlay, okay. I pulled up the draft master plan that I think our 63-day public window is closing, so this is gonna, the ink might be set to dry soon on this. On page 61 of 127, they are correct. The utility service boundary includes their entire parcel. Half of their parcel, though, is within the airport safety zone. So this does have an airport component to it, beyond whether it's an overlay or not.
The utility service boundary is different from where the utilities are, though. That was my question is, where does sewer and water end in relationship to this parcel? Because it may be fairly far away and that would have to be extended at their cost. So I just wanted them to be aware of that.
Alan?
That is a good point.
This question is really for the other members. Can't believe I'm gonna do this, but I don't see, I mean, I think like this is a good spot to put something like this. It's a business that we keep in Cascade. I guess I would ask the rest of the members, like, what would, I'm not saying yes, right? But but I mean, I don't see any big concerns that jump out at me, right? At this location here, other than having to, you know, change the overlay to this little thing. And I understand potentially creep too. So I guess I'm asking some of the other members, like, what am I missing? What am I not seeing that I should see?
Bruno?
I would say, how many meetings of a subcommittee for airport and the zoning? They met ad nauseum. I've been a planning commissioner for about 18 months. We spent probably the better part of that determining where we want industrial versus not, and the determination was craft west. To revisit that now again, I think would probably be exposing us as well in the lawsuit of we can't make up our mind what it's going to be. I think we put down a decision saying this was into now sway on the first applicant that comes before us when we weren't swayed by the airport. I think is setting a precedent that opens us to.
And if I could build on that, not only that, but I think we would be going back on precedent that we previously set in requests for this site. Previously, the township wouldn't advance applications of this type for this parcel. So I feel that we already have I think we definitely would look like we were walking backwards and not knowing which way we were going.
Member Nordhook?
I appreciate what you guys are trying to do. So this has nothing to do with you. I am incredibly frustrated that we are bringing industrial uses that are east of Craft, when as a body, we spent a better part of 2 years identifying that we would not have industrial east of Craft. So if you're asking me as a planning commissioner, I was the chairman during that 2-year stretch. It was so incredibly painful to arrive at what those conclusions were. And so I am not in support of it, and should it not be voted on, I do apologize for the time that you've invested in this.
Other comments by members? Member Nordhook?
I agree. I think we've done our zoning and this doesn't fit. And I'm happy with what we have in place.
Member Bruno?
For the data point, just to be certain, so there is a fire hydrant on the corner of Craft and 60th. So you would have to bring it.
Yes.
A long way.
A long ways.
Member Reese?
I just wanted to say that I'm sorry you had to come in tonight to hear this. I would have liked to have shared that with you the last time you were here.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Just the only thing I would add on there is that, you do have a hard stop. I understand you guys have put a lot of get it out about, but the highway and the 60th create a stop to it, so it's not like it's gonna keep on going. And we were aware that water and sewer, other conversations with our department on that aspect too. At this point, yeah, we're looking. Find out. The previous applicant there was, you were asking about benefits to your community, and I think we're a very big benefit. We literally improve properties all over the city. In fact, this property right here, that's our property. Oh.
Ryan?
I would agree. I have empathy. But it's just that it's been 2 years worth of work and we've been exposing ourselves legally to. So
Yeah.
Find another parcel, come back to us. We just spoke about, we love businesses in Cascade that are already here.
Yeah.
Can we find, yeah,
Can I ask what is the intention of that property? Like what type of business would be okay in that parcel?
Plans.
Well, now it's the 15 acres. That's the conundrum.
But couldn't an exception
I
be
would
made
defer
if
to
they put
staff,
plans
so you
in?
would need to look at our, rather than misspeak, it is currently agricultural rural conservation ARC. So you wouldn't just need to go to the zoning ordinance and look at what it's permitted under ARC.
I was scrolling to that, but yes, and then there's
Fair.
also part of it is AC.
And part of it's AC,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
Can't have businesses.
No, it can have an airport museum, viewing area, hotels, motels, rental establishments.
so if they put plants in there, I mean, obviously it's not big enough, but
Cars.
is there? If they do that, does that give us wiggle room to say, hey, yeah, at least they brought plants in?
I would defer the guys looking at the ARC is
I don't,
nursery.
I don't think you can do that because what about all the people who came in with nurseries that were told they had to have 15 acres? I mean,
I'm just asking. Right, I'm trying to
you
I'm like-
gotta read the ordinance,
Yeah.
guys. You can't just make up
That's
what
what
you
I'm
want. I
In the
mean,
ordinance
it's
setback?
pretty clear. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Half crowd and
But there's a whole list. There's 22 things that are allowed in that section under the AC district. I didn't look at ARC, but 22 things under AC allowed by right, and then uses by special use, you've got another whole series of those. Depending on the overlay, or if it's not in an overlay.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for
Appreciate it.
coming.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
8.8 acres.
20 acres.
Okay, Article 9, case number 243824. Applicant Mary Hollister Sturgis. Comments, Andrea, anything?
I can present it for you, Holly, and if any questions, I'll just stand there. Just join me.
Madison,
Hello.
give us a background.
And I'll put it in this up here.
Very loud keyboard over there.
Lots of passion tonight.
Hanging away.
I think a record setting the.
Yeah.
All right, so we're switching gears a little bit here. We've got a resident, Mary Holly Sturgis, goes by Holly.
Welcome.
She is on 2303 Thornapple River Drive. This is up kind of south of Laraway and north of Windcrest. She's on about 1.5 acres, and she's here tonight looking for permission to increase her fence height in the front yard to 8 feet. Historically, her property had some orchard trees on it, and she's kind of reestablishing that. Her house is set back 300 feet from Thornapple River Drive, making the majority of her property front yard. So tonight she's looking to put up a 40-foot by 20-foot fence around just the trees. So you can see on the site plan here, the green square would be the fenced-in area. So it's about 200 feet off of Thornapple River Drive. And then the proposed fence, I have a couple images up there that Holly had passed along as well, kind of showing the type of fence. So it's not solid, and from a distance, it does appear to be invisible almost.
And it's black.
Yes, and it's black, yeah. So multiple things kind of helping deter the visual effect of it. And then if we look at the actual standards that we want to consider is whether or not it's going to impact, if that additional height would be impacting the neighbors negatively, or the adjoining properties. I think because of the setback, it's way off Thornapple River Drive. It's not the whole perimeter of her parcel. It's just around these trees. You know, her reason for protecting her trees from the deer, I think, is pretty valid. I know you guys have seen some other fence applications before you for similar reasons, and we have granted those in the past. In terms of it creating a fire or safety hazard, I don't think that that would be an issue either. And then there was no specific property restrictions that we found that would make it so that we should not approve this fence. And it would not create a traffic hazard. Again, it would be 200 feet off of Thornapple River Drive, so driving by it probably wouldn't even see it. So when we took in all those findings, and evaluated it, we kind of found that, staff was comfortable recommending that you guys would approve that fence, for Mary, or for Holly's, trees to be protected from the deer. Do you have any questions for us?
Let's ask the Holly to step up and, or Mary to step up and give us. her
Call me
background.
Holly.
What's your background on this? How long have you been there?
Lived on the property for almost 40 years. I recently divided the lot and built my own house. So I was in the Alville farmhouse, which dates back to 1868. Maintained it as much of a farm as I could in the suburban area. The deer have been plentiful.
Aren't they everywhere?
And in my new house, I see more deer than ever, and they're gorgeous. They come up at night and kind of surround my house. So I don't wish them any ill will, but they eat everything. So I planted trees. I planted 100 trees. Chope. So,
Frustrating, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Member Bruno?
As you mentioned, and I know some of this background, so in being forthright, I have to ask you this, so everyone's on the same page. So as you mentioned, you've lived there for 40 years and have a beautiful 4-acre parcel that you recently split into 2. And you elected to build brand new 300-foot setback with no backyard, is that correct?
yes, as to make sure all my neighbors are happy.
Okay.
I can't look into anybody's backyard. I did it for privacy.
Yeah, I just,
Yeah, the home to the south is more in line with the fence at, Orchard area.
Right, I can't look into their yard because I'm so far back.
okay.
Just
I
important
struggle
to
with
me.
that one a little bit because in like the ZBA, there's called self-infliction. You could put an orchard with a fence in your backyard, but you have no backyard, but that no backyard was by your own choosing within a relatively short number of years. You lived there 40 years and had an opportunity to put fruit trees and restore a farm. I struggle with that. So that's my negative side. My positive side is I'm a neighbor and the deer have eaten everything that I could possibly come up with. My lawn is like a smorgasbord. So I have empathy in that I have this exact same problems. I lack empathy in that it was by self-creation. And then I think if, again, back to, I said this up front, I have the same issue. If I vote in favor tonight, my wife will have an application into the department tomorrow morning to put an 8-foot fence in our front yard.
Can I speak
Okay.
to that? Just for a
Yes.
moment? I think I concluded a note in my staff report that this kind of has become a reoccurring request. And as a planning department, it is, I believe, part of our job to notice these patterns. So in our upcoming zoning amendments that are coming up, I encouraged that be something that is taken into consideration with the increase in deer population and the increased need for fences that prohibit deer. So I'm not necessarily saying that the standard should be changed to allow everyone to have an 8-foot fence, but that it be considered that it is a pattern in the topography and area that we live.
It is a pattern, but are we doing the right solution, right?
Right.
We could have a pattern of crime and we could just,
Put another car dealer in.
yeah, sure, something like that. We could build another hotel. I struggle with
15-story.
Mr. Hughes it was Jeffrey Hughes is a lawyer who lives, actually a judge who lives across the street from us. And he has been very vocal about the need for a call. Kent County just stood up a commission to study this. I think it's a multi-county, I think it's Kent County partnering with Ottawa. And I believe Mr. Hughes will be our designate to that, because he's well more versed than I am on it. But I'm fearful of, I hear what you're saying. We've had a lot of these before us. I don't think we've ever had one in the front yard. 8-foot fences in the front yards. This is gonna look like Penitentiary Row. I would love one. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think I deserve one, and I don't think my neighbors would like it. I have great empathy for what the deer are doing, but I think as a township, this is a huge can of worms they're about to open up. And unless we want these in everyone's front yard, we should start looking at the right solution, a call or something.
Member Reese?
crossbow.
I think Timmy had his hand up before me, but I'll be glad to go in front of him.
And I'll follow.
Okay.
Okay, Member
So,
Ritchie.
first off, Mary, I think you have a great application here as far as the way you put this together with pictures and dimensions and the drawing. And honestly, given the fact you're 200 feet from the road and it's a small area, I am probably more in support of it than what I'm hearing from the other end of the table. I think you put it, I understand your concern and the problem with the deer, particularly in that area. We've had these come in front of us before. And generally along a road like Thornapple River Drive, we allow a resident to put a fence in their front yard up to 6 feet to block the road. She's asking for 8 and she's 200 feet from the street. I'm a little more open-minded to that.
Member Nordhook.
Because of that distance.
How many fruit trees are you having in here?
I can only fit 5
5,
because
okay.
fruit trees need space.
There's a nursery on the corner of Buttrick and 28th Street that has hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of trees. And they treat their trees twice a year with a product called Deer Pro. And it's a license, has to be done by a licensed professional, and they happen to be that. I think they have no problem with their trees. This-
You do know that nursery was just down the road from me.
Yep, but their repellent saves their trees from the deer, and they have a lot of trees there. So have you tried that product?
Do they have as many deer in the enclosed area?
Not so much anymore. There's no place to eat. They don't like their Deer Pro on their products. But they have hundreds of trees for the deer to eat. So have you tried that product?
First of all, you're telling me I have to hire someone who's licensed, which is not something I knew about, so. I've talked to Tom Rooks many times about deer problems. Tom Rooks is a landscaper, 36th Street. He has no deer problems and he does not spray.
He does what?
He does not spray at all. Because the deer population is smaller and they have more things to eat.
Okay, I guess, yeah.
Member Nordic.
Mary, I think that,
You can call me Holly.
I'm sorry, Holly. I think you have a very nice fence. When I drove by it, it was 200 feet from the road. I don't know that it would even be seen from the road, so I'm very supportive of your fence.
I originally had the contractor quote a chain link because that's what they sell.
Yeah.
And then I found the cattle fence. The contractor won't put it up. I'll have to find someone to put it up for me, but it does become invisible.
Yes.
And I have so many feet that you're not gonna see it.
No.
Member Richardson.
Interesting.
Have we received any sort of comments from neighbors that say, we don't want this fence?
I had 2 neighbors come in from the south. Don't quote me on their address because they didn't make a formal public comment, so I didn't record it. But they came in because they got the letter within 300 feet and they were just wondering what's going on. I showed them the plans, kind of explained what's going on. They're like, oh yeah, the deer are terrible. She should get her fence. So I've only received comments and support from the public.
Thank you.
Member Reese.
I would support a motion, or I'd make a motion to go to public hearing at this time.
Do I have a second?
Support?
Moved and supported. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are now in public hearing. Thank you. Any comments from the public?
I'd make a motion to close public hearing.
Support.
Moved and supported. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Public hearing is now closed. I'd just like to make a couple of comments. We use Deer Pro in our backyard and have had no problems. It does change the color of the leaves a little bit, more of a lime look to it. Thornapple River Nursery puts it on our trees every year and it keeps those critters away.
Does
Is
it
it
keep them from rubbing the trees?
Yeah, yeah.
Because I have the same problem in the fall. They rub the trees
Yeah.
and break them.
Yeah, anyway, they're licensed to do it and they do a nice job and we've used it for several years now.
Expensive?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, it's probably $250 a year
Okay.
for our small backyard. Remember Bruno?
Again, back to empty, Holly does make a good point. I'm obviously kind of against the fence in the front yard, because it gets back. But she does make a good point that. And I verified this with the township supervisor this morning, there are supposedly more deer in the Burton Park, Thornapple kind of area than anywhere else. But again. It's a big can of worms.
Chairman Moxley,
Yes, member Nordike.
I'd like to make a motion to, in case number 24-3824, that the planning commission, approve it as written with the recommendations by staff.
I'll support that.
Moved and supported. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed?
Opposed.
2 opposed, 4 in favor, motion passes.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Yes,
I've heard you say 6-0 or 4-2. There's 7 of us?
oh, excuse me, you're right.
We've had so
I
many.
keep forgetting
meetings
myself.
where
Not counting
all
himself.
7 of us are not.
Yeah. Just confirming that there isn't somebody not
Yes.
voting.
Let's not look at his tally.
5-2,
Yeah.
Very much. Thank you for making it short.
thank you.
Thank you for a good application.
Sorry you had to wait so long.
Okay, Article 10,
Before we go on, that brings up an interesting thought, maybe in the future, the people that are coming in for a pre-plan, maybe they should go at the tail end. Yeah, no, no, you know, the people that are coming in that actually have, you know,
I'd like to see residents ahead of businesses.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
my preference.
I think that would be maybe a good,
As long as we have lessons learned from this, if we do have some standing policy, we allow 6-foot fences in front yards. Never seen that, and if we're doing that, we should probably capture that somewhere else.
Scott's the ordinance expert, so.
The Ryan exclusionary area.
Could be.
But I mean, maybe in the future, I mean, and
We've
then
approved
it's an
so
even better
many.
point is citizens in front of businesses. Maybe. Just
Noted.
a thought,
good idea.
All right.
she
Noted.
doesn't think so.
No,
I'm
I
teasing.
I
Well,
hear you. I was
generally-
hoping that it would be
generally
like,
the-
hey, this is general.
Yeah.
There's not much to talk about.
Yeah,
Here's your recommendation.
yeah.
Be done. I was,
Chair gets the agenda and he has the ability to rearrange it if he sees fit. And
No, it was just a thought.
easy to
Chris had
overlook
made that
those
comment.
things.
It's kind of-
I've been in that seat and sometimes you miss one. I think it's a good idea, but
Okay, let's move on. Article 10, case number 23-3826. Applicant James Rabout. Andrea?
yep. So this is the address in question, or in subject, the subject address here is 2020 Devonwood, which is located on the north side of Burton. This is a residential property, totaling 46 acres with residential surrounding on all sides. This property has 4 accessory buildings, 3 of which are permitted by right. And the 4th that was received a variance in 2012. And then for an 8,500 square foot building. The proposed addition is 8,100 square foot. No, it was only built to 7290 in 2012. The proposed addition to the building, accessory building number 4 is 8,100 square foot, bringing the square footage of this accessory building to 15,190 square feet. The accessory structure would be, the addition would be attached to the structure with an exterior cover, which is defined in our ordinance, section 408. So this would be a almost breezeway that would have a connected ceiling that would connect this new addition. Your packet will show the exact location on the property along with elevations. The property or the proposed building will have consistent building materials with the existing building. You also will see a chart of all accessory buildings that have been, not all, but a large portion of the accessory buildings that have been approved in 2023 and 2020. Earlier today, the applicant provided a visual of those accessory structures that you have in front of you in paper, and it was emailed to you earlier today for your review. This is an extremely large building, but it's also an extremely large property. And in doing the analysis, I've really taken into consideration the comparison between the percentage of the parcel that the accessory buildings have actually take up on the parcel. So if you see the average, we went through and looked at all of these properties, and the average the mean size for an accessory structure that has been approved is 1.4% of the lot area. And the proposed building would cover 0.76% of the 46-acre lot. If you look at that in comparison with the other three, if you add the square footage of all the other three buildings on the site, calculate and look at the percentage of the entire parcel that would be covered, it would be 1.59%, which is just a little bit over the mean percentage for previous approvals. The staff, I'm not going to reiterate everything that's in the staff report, but you can see that the standards that are required for the approval of a special land use, when looking at the type and kind of construction that is clearly met because it's consistent with the material that has been provided. And I think one of the biggest factors in my decision to make a recommendation for approval in this was the topography and the vegetation in the area. I did provide in the staff report a picture from the gate on the south side of the property, and the current structure is on the south side, and they're proposing an addition to the north. If you are looking at the picture provided in your staff report, I'm standing on the south side of the gate. There's a large forested area, and you can't even really see the south side of the property. So then the addition would go on the north side. I think that we do need to, I think that the way that we regulate special uses for these accessory buildings is something that, as Madison said, is coming all the time to the Planning Commission. And we probably need to relook at that and say, are we looking at size? Are we looking at percentage? Are we looking at the right factors? And should we kind of just put a general, this is how much you can cover versus a, bringing each of these individually to the Planning Commission over and over, with kind of nebulous standards of how we approve them. But for this staff review, I've looked at percentage of the property and is this consistent with the previous approvals that we've had? And does it meet the standards for approving something? Does it impact the properties adjacent? Are we impacting light or air? And to these, I found that the answer is emphatically no, because no adjacent property owner can even see any factor in that. But I will leave it to the Planning Commission to make the final decision.
Member Bruno?
I have a couple of fundamental questions. I guess I'm really a stickler tonight. We have zoning ordinances that we just don't seem to even like kind of almost read. I honestly think for the amount of acres that it's a reasonable request. But I'm a planning commissioner. I'm not a trustee. I don't create zoning ordinances. I just enforce them, right?
Wrong.
In this case, we are administering the zoning ordinance.
Okay,
Zoning
administrative.
ordinance is, I mean, we approve ordinances here. That's what we do. They can
Amend them.
We can amend them, but
we
we
recommend them to the
recommend.
township board. They have ultimate authority over them, but they're generally drafted in this body
Okay,
and brought
so-
to the board.
I stand corrected on how I phrase it, but we make decisions based on those that are in the statute currently.
Correct.
In the statute currently says 6+ acres, the number of buildings allowed is 3. It doesn't say 6 to 12 acres or 6 to 45 acres or something.
But
My
the,
question is we're in the midst of modifying our zoning ordinance anyway. Can we make a provision for something like this so I can go back to my constituents and say, look, the zoning ordinance says when you have a gigantic parcel like this, you're allowed 6 buildings. And it's a clear decision. I look at this and say, we really don't have wiggle room. This isn't a question of 832 plus, right? This is, you're allowed.
Sure, you have
3.
wiggle room. You can make exceptions.
Do
You
you
can make-
Let me clarify,
more
there
than
was
3
a
buildings?
variance for a 4th building approved.
Yeah, you could, a variance. It's just like if we do.
That's a variance. So we're now going to make an amendment to a variance?
No,
It-
because they're
it-
not
No,
asking for
it-
another building.
So hold on, so should
Let me,
this,
let
should
me
this,
speak to that real quick. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
Andrea,
should this conversation be going on in, when we have our conversation? Or should this conversation be
Well,
going
okay,
on
this is part of
now?
it, but I'm
Yeah, let me-
asking her, I'm
So-
asking why, does the current ordinance say no more than 3 regardless of the property size? So let me ask my question,
Yes.
then we have debate, okay,
Yes,
then my next question is, does the ordinance say that these accessory buildings should not be used for business?
yes,
Does
in a
the app-
residential area.
Does the application say there's things such as conference rooms and things of the sort that are typically associated with a business?
Yes. So that's,
Okay.
no, I'm sorry, you can have a business in an accessory, I'm sorry, no, that's not correct. I'm not,
The
let me handle where you're going first, because I have.
Well,
it
you
in
don't
my
have to
head.
handle it. I think they want the debate up here, so I'm asking.
Well, no,
I think
I'm saying
Mr.
like.
you got a good point. Mr. Roll wants me to ask very,
So
very
the
straightforward
chair-
questions.
The chair had called on me to state this. question.
Andrea.
Let me just finish the question. You had asked quite a few things rapid fire. I want to make sure that I answer them on point. Because you had said, are we amending that's the question that I'm working on answering. Are we amending a variance? We're not amending a variance because a variance was for the 4th building. And I was very careful in saying that, or in looking at previous improvements, because we were going to send this back to the planning commit, or to the ZBA if the language identified the square footage of that building. They were approved for a 4th building. They weren't approved for a certain square foot building. So they've been approved for the 4th building. That's not the question tonight. The question is the size.
So there was no
The-
language in the ZBA ruling, because usually it's conditionals. It just says they
No.
allowed a 4th building.
Yes. And it was from 2012. The question of, okay,
And the reason for that would be because the planning commission would be the one to probably decide the size of the building, not the ZBA.
That's not how it's statutorily supposed to be done in the state of Michigan, but that's, I guess, difference.
Well, I
When you
think
make a
that's
ZBA
generally,
ruling, it's got
we,
Conditions, but, okay, I'll be quiet.
all right, let's let our Mr. Rabout introduce himself and your.
Welcome. Welcome to the pit.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you for staying later tonight. It's been a longer meeting and we appreciate everyone's time. My name's Jim Rabo. I'm with Winter Norcross and Judd. We're legal counsel for longtime Cascade residents, Doug and Maria DeVos. We have been before you before on this property, and as Ms. Hendrick, I think rightly pointed out, the variance was granted for a 4th. So I don't believe we're here seeking a modification of an existing variance. We are here, though, seeking a special land use permit for this expansion of this existing building. And we recognize that this is not maybe the typical outbuilding that you might see on a parcel, but at the same time, this is not sort of a typical parcel. The parcel proper is 46.52 acres, but Mr. and Mrs. DeVos also own contiguous vacant property with the entire sort of, I'll say, estate at over 166 acres. So when you're considering the standards to apply to the special land use permit, please take into account the fact that there is an enormous amount of vacant land also around this, which I think also leads to, the conclusion that you really can't see this outbuilding. We appreciate the township staff review of the application and their recommendation. We certainly appreciate that. We note that they, in that recommendation, they note 2 conditions, one dealing with lighting adhering to township ordinance standards, and the second being that no building may be used for a dwelling. And if approved by the planning commission, we would certainly abide by those standards. We have no problem with them. I do want to mention, just very briefly, before I turn it over to my colleague Brent Dykstra, who's with AMDG Architecture, and he'll talk about a little bit more of the details of the site plan. Something I heard regarding a business use. There is no business use of this site. This is a residential use. This is a family use. Granted, their family use is different from mine. We would have perhaps a business, a family meeting at our kitchen table. They have a conference room for it. I may park my car in a garage. It's going to look different here. I don't think that's a bad thing. They have the resources and the ability to, have this kind of space, which helps their family operate. And that's what they're seeking to do with this space. It's no different than the historical use. Never had any issues with any of the neighbors with respect to what's going on there. And again, there's no business being operated at all from the space. It's just family use. And staff, and they receive service providers at this location as well. So at this point, of course, I'm always here to answer any questions you may have. I'm going to turn it over to Brent Dykstra. He's with the architectural firm of AMDG Architecture. They're the ones who designed the original building when it was built, and they're involved now to make sure that it is aesthetically exactly what it should be. So, Brent.
Your first name is Brent?
Brent,
Okay.
correct.
Welcome.
Yes, commissioners, thank you very much. And Andrea and Madison, thank you for the dialogue that got us to this point. If I can just walk through the detail and elaborate on what Jim was explaining. We have a distance of about 1,055 feet from Burton. We have actually an access to that to any of the north adjacent parcels that are not owned by the applicant. So those are roughly a quarter to a third of a mile between the proposed addition, the structure, and any property owners that are not the applicant. And then to the west, extremely wooded, as well as much of the surrounding. So I think in short, this addition would not be visible really from any of the other properties by virtue of number one, the distance, and number two, the vegetation, and number three, the fact that it's tucked behind and inside, as the report said, the existing structure. So it's kind of nestled and sort of hunkered in there.
Brent, I'll just point out that everything on this drawing right now is actually owned by the DeVos family. Everything that you can see there in that area.
In terms of just kind of getting into a little larger scale drawing, so the sort of larger block here is about 7,650 square feet. That's fundamentally bays, garage bays, maintenance equipment, storage. There is some staff support associated with those functions kind of as part of that block. It is an open air enclosure, so the roof is contiguous, but it is open air beneath. This smaller block of about 400 square feet is the expansion to what we're calling a conference room. The reality is it functions as a staff break room. So maintenance personnel and staff have their, that's where they have their lunch. And then these very sort of minor little additions are really more about an internal configuration to the conference room on the east. The reality is it's just accommodating a little bit of a different internal configuration. It's really not a substantial footprint expansion on the east at all. Hardscape expansion largely relates to maneuvering equipment, landscape trailers, mowers, etc. As you can imagine, in front of the garage bays, it's just kind of helpful for in and out to have that area. And additionally, the staff, the maintenance staff parking. I think relative to the exterior expression, a really quality level of exterior finish. So tinted masonry veneer, painted cement board, kind of just sort of a pretty kind of crisp detailing, and in a quality envelope. So this really, the expansion is intended to very nearly replicate the detailing and exterior materials you're seeing on the existing building. think relative to kind of understanding from more of an elevation perspective, I think we're well within the height limitation being 22 feet. We're at, roughly 18 feet or so. So it's a fairly low slung roof. It's consistent with the architecture on the estate. To reference what Andrea had noted, I think we just wanted to visually, I'm actually going to jump ahead and just show visually this diagram. So we thought it might be helpful to in a graphic way represent the lot coverage. So, the square being an abstraction of all the parcel sizes of the approvals that have been granted in the past 2 years. The red dot being the relative coverage. We're in the lower quartile, so 0.79. I think there's only about 4 that were kind of less coverage than this particular accessory building.
And then just to confirm here again, this takes into account just the main parcel proper. It doesn't consider at all the additional 120 acres that surrounds the.
Correct. This represents the 46 some acre. So I think just as a graphic representation, very consistent with the history of approvals for similar projects. We thought it might also be helpful to understand purely from a kind of a density equivalent, acknowledging that, we're in R1, there's a R2 to the south, R1 to the northeast. On an equivalent parcel size of that 46 acres, right, we're roughly 84 homes and some unknown amount of accessory buildings to the south and 41. So clearly on such a large parcel, the density remains very, very low. Thought this might be helpful to just illustrate that again. So happy to answer or address any questions relative to the architecture, the detail, the density.
Questions, Member Reese?
Thank you for the presentation. It's very good. I don't have any questions. You guys did a great job.
Anybody else?
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion that we move to public hearing.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And motion passes 7-0.
Good job on the counting.
Second.
Anybody online? Anybody in the audience like to make a comment? Okay,
With that, I make a motion to close the public hearing. Support.
all in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passes 7-0. Okay.
All right, now it's your.
Member Reese?
And they kind of touched on this too, but looking at, let me switch back to my screen, so I have my notes in front of me. Looking at the map, looking at immediate family properties in the vicinity of this, they're 1,400 to 2,000 feet away. I mean, it's nearly a half mile. I'm comfortable with this request.
Well, it's covered by trees too. I mean, it's surrounded by trees.
It's all, in a sense, not to compare this to a fence, but it's similar to somebody wanting a fence 200 feet from the road in a wooded area. Just,
Member Nordike?
Like to make a motion in case number 2438.
Can we have debate first or no?
He can ask for comments after I put it on the table. I'm gonna put the motion on the table to approve this case with staff recommendations.
Support.
Okay, comment from Member Bruno.
I think I agree with everything you both just said. The problem
Approving it?
is that the underlying, we're legislating from the planning commission seat. And I guess maybe we're old school, but I don't believe that this is within our authority and maybe I'll be the lone one. I get that it's really small and I want to approve, but I don't think I'm in a position to approve. And when you say, well, it's a long distance from everything, well, it is now. But we have to look to the next generation. Maybe they'll own this property forever. But the whole point of zoning ordinance is so when things change hands and things change. So right now, no one can see it. But who's to say they're not going to sell a property and build a subdivision and it's now in someone's backyard? I don't get the whole, we have ordinances, we have processes, we have procedures, and it seems like we continue to not follow them.
But all of
They've
those,
already approved the building though.
all of those
That's the
actions
point.
would require.
They have, but
We just are here to talk about what size they can have.
Yeah.
Correct.
In addition.
And
to
it's,
that.
and it's,
Right.
it's typically limited to 832, and they already have how many in excess of 832, and I get it.
They have
For that
46
large-
acres.
They have a
Like
right.
they're one of like 3 families in the entire county that could say we will own it perpetually forever. and Create a trust in which they
Perfect.
could maintain that.
And I guess if maybe they presented that, I might be unswayable. I get it. I want to say yes. I don't think I can, based on the rules that are in front of me.
Okay, understood.
Other comments? I'd just like to make a couple of quick comments. I drive by this every day on Burton, going over to the Y to work out, and you can't see anything other than a gate.
I see the baseball field occasionally and I wish to play on it, but then.
I always thought it was a soccer field. I always thought it was a soccer field.
Yeah, it's,
I think it's a goal.
and the fact that the addition is on the north side of the existing building, which you can't even see, nobody's gonna see the addition either. So, you know, and I, as an architect, I think the job you guys have done, it's a beautiful design. It's very handsomely done.
Thank you. Got a motion on the table.
Okay, any further comments? All in favor, say aye.
I,
Any opposed?
Opposed.
Motion passes 6-1.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
very
you.
much. Okay, I'd like to now acknowledge visitors and those wishing to speak.
It's flying along tonight.
Anybody online? Anybody in the audience? Okay, other business?
Yes, I have other business. I have other
Yes, member
business.
Reese.
I've been making a long list of other business. Okay,
Go.
I got a couple questions. I don't know where to start.
I'm scared.
Okay, so I have a question. Looking over your drafts that you provided. As, to help, with these, they read like a resolution.
They are a resolution.
So that would require a roll call vote then, wouldn't it?
No.
No?
Ask Leslie or Laura, sorry.
Laura, are you there?
Yep, I'm still here. Everyone, Lori Jenovich from Foster Swift. There's no law that requires a roll call vote for a resolution. Robert's rules there are certain things in the law that require a roll call vote, right? Like going into closed session for certain reasons. Robert's rules would just indicate that you would want to do a roll call vote if it's not clear what the outcome of a voice vote is.
Understood. Thank you for the clarity.
You're welcome.
Then
Since we got on the line, can I ask a lawyer question? Is your next-
Reese, are you done?
no, I had a list, but
But I'm asking, may I ask the lawyer questions on the got her?
Yeah,
sure.
Okay. Is it proper and in the best interest of the township for our zoning board of appeals to apparently be offering variances without precise conditionals?
well, that's a different subject.
Yeah, but we have it on
I feel like you kind of just took.
Yeah.
We'll have
Not that you don't have a right to do that, but.
I know,
It sets.
I was just in the middle of a lawyer.
I was on a lawyer to be here. tonight.
Ask a lawyer. Well, I'm not sure what you mean. Do you mean with conditions on granting a variance?
Well, basically, from the class that we just had, 2 weeks ago, when a variance is granted, they're usually very precise in the language of it is granted, but thou shall not, or thou shall. To just say a fourth building is allowed with no boundaries, is that best practice or is that typical?
I would say that variances are often granted without any conditions. If the variance that has been requested meets the requirements of state law and the zoning ordinance, then the variance can be granted. So I don't think it's a best practice one way or the other. There are times when conditions are appropriate and times when the requested variance can be granted as is.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So to clarify that, you're suggesting that the PC in that situation would then clarify.
Exactly what you said.
Yeah. Okay.
Let me ask a question regarding,
I stole Scott's thunder. He let me ask my one.
No,
Back in-
I got a flat tire.
It's done.
That was your one, you're done. You passed the mic.
I'm
it's never
close.
coming back.
I'll wait till next week.
Andrea, when we see this, if we are about to approve something, are we expected to read through all of
That,
these?
that was
and
the
place
intent of
into-
those. So, after the training, it's always been best practice that when you make an approval we talk about things and things go into our minutes, but the goal of those is to say exactly why we approve something. So Member Bruno, I disagree with you when you say that was a legislative action. That wasn't, that was administering the zoning ordinance per the requirements. So to read that resolution, and Leslie, I'm sorry, Laura, you don't have this right in front of you, but to read that resolution is to go to the section of our zoning ordinance, and there was staff recommendations or answers for why that should be approved. So.
You'll have to
the-
explain it to me again.
You want us to read all 2 pages?
Well, let's go back.
Well,
to
it's
word
not,
for word.
okay, so
Can we, hold on, can we dissect what you said into the part, let's do the
Yeah.
first sentence. You didn't think it was legislating. Does the zoning ordinance not say there shall not be more than 3 accessory buildings?
we are not legislating that. That was a zoning board of appeals decision that was already made. That's by the zoning board of appeals,
true.
who has
But
the right.
Go back
to-
and change, okay, I stand corrected. That just seems weird to me that we're revisiting. So they approved it, but now we get to decide the size.
Correct.
Interesting.
Can I go back?
Okay,
So we were
Recent-
only approving a special use
Interrupted.
for a building over 832 square foot. That's what we were doing.
This
February
might,
eighth.
this might help. Maybe not. So we have a zoning ordinance that allows for special uses. And one of those uses is for a homeowner to put in an application for an accessory building larger than 832 square feet. And I get the feeling that the friction sometimes as well, why are we approving this building over 832 square feet? And I mean, that is a right that our zoning offers to somebody to come in and make a request for that. But I a lot of times I hear the excuse thrown out that, well, they could have 2 buildings, 830 square feet, so why should we approve one at 1,600 or whatever the application is?
Can I speak to that? And that's our ordinance, and this is why we put the resolution together, says that we can approve those things for certain reasons that are
Special
defined in our
use.
ordinance.
There.
Yeah.
The special
Special
use
use.
reasons for an accessory building are in your staff review, and that's why we put this resolution together, because I'm just gonna read a couple, because you're asking me to dissect it. The planning commission has considered the intent and use of the expansion and finds that. In our zoning ordinance, it says we're to consider the intent and use. So what we did there was to say, the planning commission has considered the intent and use of the expansion and finds that the request is a continuation of an existing use. The use has not caused harm to the general health and welfare of the adjacent properties. And also the proposed location of the building is, so we're supposed to consider the intent and use of the building, the proposed location of the building,
So
the
you're in,
architectural character.
you're
those-
in, your intent is for us to read all 10, not pick.
Yeah,
I mean, you want the whole thing read word for word, start to finish.
Why can't this be in a staff report that we can just say we approve with staff's comments?
we can, but if you deny it, it's of no use to you.
That's fine, but how often do we deny? Percentage.
If you don't deny, then we might as well make it.
No, I think
Well,
we
on
can
the
say.
denial, maybe we
Yeah,
need to
yeah,
use this.
yeah.
Yeah, but like 9 out of 10 times we don't, is my point.
To be fair,
9.9999999% of the time.
But regardless,
But
we
it's
can
the
agree that the
planning
majority
commission
are
law.
approved.
Okay.
We can say that. The
The
majority have been.
majority are approved so frequently, it's not a special, nothing special. This is like everyone
That's
gets
not the
approved.
argument that I'm making. I'm just looking at like statistics of previous meetings. We have approved
This is
more
true.
than we have denied.
Correct.
So I think it is a fair recommendation or ask that staff includes it in the report, and that way we can only come to this if we have to deny something. That's all I'm suggesting. Not that we should approve more or deny more. That to me is moot to what I'm asking for. I'm just saying, can she put this in staff so we're not having to spend time reading it when it's already there? That's all.
So I'll suggest this. How about we put it in as the findings of your approval based on our recommendation? So if we
Yes.
recommend denying, then we'll put in the reasons that we recommend that.
Yeah.
But we
take
can
us
still-
with the denial, like, hey, guys, this is, if you're gonna deny this, these are the things that you need to say. I think that's completely within reason, right? I'm just suggesting, I'm looking at expediency because
Yeah.
if we're gonna read this, there's no different if you have it in the packet that, and it will allow the minutes to reflect what we're approving versus us spending time reading.
Receipt, just a second.
This is an interesting thing too, because in the past, we always approve accessory buildings a similar way, and I'm just realizing that the conditions in the packet tonight for this accessory building are different than what we typically have. And I'm wondering,
What are the conditions that are different?
well, usually it's all outdoor lighting meets our township ordinance. And it can't be used for a dwelling or to operate a business.
Yeah, we never said.
And it doesn't say in here that it can't be used to run a business in the packet. But that's
yeah.
what every accessory building we've approved for the last
Yeah.
10 years has had those specific conditions.
Well, we could have added it. I mean,
Okay, I'm just.
Bruno.
So I guess I want to address
The
both,
method
both the guys to the far left.
Seem to work.
So Chris. You
Yeah.
first. I believe that we need to make as legally sound, whether it's an approval or denial. So only following this, if we deny, I think is, we have a lawyer online, I think is incorrect.
I'm not
You would
advocating
want to
that.
follow this, even if you're approving.
No,
Because a
I'm,
neighbor could sue. We always.
I'm not advocating we don't follow it, Ryan.
Okay.
I'm suggesting that it's put in the staff recommendations. If you approve it, it would be because of these reasons.
You could reflect. to these
That's what I'm
and say-
suggesting. I'm not suggesting that it's omitted at all. I'm suggesting.
I guess he was saying something about.
And in the interest of expediency, because in the past, we have approved more than we've denied, and I'm not suggesting that should be a future state, only that it has been the past state for the last 20+ years, that it should be in the staff report. So when we approve with staff recommendations, all of this is written and then can be reflected in the minutes. So should somebody go back and say, why did they approve it? It's there.
But I would say if we disapproved it.
If,
So we're stacking the packet to look like we're gonna approve it.
no, I
well,
think,
that's kind of what happens with a recommendation.
That's staff recommendation.
yeah.
But the staff recommendation's already in there. Why would we put it in there a second time? You guys, do you understand the confusion? Like,
Because the language in the staff recommendation is not written this way, and I'm suggesting perhaps it should be.
okay, so you're more precise. You want the staff recommendation to be replaced with this.
I want it to include this,
You did. and
I like the way it is now.
and I'm fine with it the way it is now with this language amended to it, right? So that way it's still there. I'm not looking to modify this. I think it is a great process. I'm trying to have some expediency and not having a planning commissioner.
I was struggling with your verbiage, and I still am a little bit of how, since we approve more than we want the approval language in there, so we have evidence of why we approved.
Because if we're approving what staff, I mean, typically, Andrea, have we had one that you've said you would not recommend
Yes.
approval?
Did because of the
Yes, but we
existence of a
approved it anyway.
dwelling,
we approved it anyway.
but you approved it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I think in
yeah,
that
yeah,
situation, that would be, if staff is recommending that we decline it, you have the
Already
same
put
language for
that.
why it would be declined.
Approved by carport.
All I'm saying,
Yeah.
Ryan, to be clear, all I'm saying is if we are following what staff is recommending, whether they approve it or they say that it should be declined, that this language is there just for expediency. I think more often,
With the way we wrote that, I'm
yeah, because I
100% in
think
agreement.
more often than not, I think that we are aligned with staff. And I think if you were to look back, you would see that that is the case.
With this, like, sort of-
My concern, the concern I have too is just, we have two cases in front of us. There's 4 pages of material here to read and out loud. And I could very easily see somebody misspeaking.
Yes.
And it being recorded that way. Whereas if we are reflecting what's in print that we all trust is done correctly and has been reviewed by a large set of eyes, I think there's less chance of a mistake happening
Yes.
than somebody slipping up and saying not instead of,
It was expediency and precision why I was recommending that, not because any other reason. Like I think it's a great process. a
Maybe
good
it's
tool.
hard. I appreciate the last 2 times you made a motion, you say first, well, I don't know.
With staff recommendation.
With staff recommendations.
Yes.
Member Richardson.
I think what I was gonna say is Ben
covered.
stated.
Okay.
May I address Roland now?
Let me back up.
I think Roland and I haven't been aligned since I sat down there. But it's not a special use anymore if we hand out a participation trophy to everybody that comes to the door, do we not have better things to do with our time? If we're gonna approve everything that comes through, do we move the goal line?
Yeah, I
8:30.
agree.
We spend so much time on this and we've never denied one. In my 18 months, we've
Denied
never
what?
denied one. Yep.
Sometimes,
We did deny.
I know, I was gonna get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
They cut me off.
This would require a special use permit, when I say, okay, well, I'm not gonna go by.
We did deny one, so you stand corrected.
No, we tabled it and we approved it at the next meeting, so.
Oh, no, there was another one where the guy wanted to build the
carport,
front yard,
And you'd
yeah.
already poured the cement slab.
So
Wait a minute,
back
I'll
to
get
my
you a spot.
list, back to my list that I was
This
working
meeting's
on
still in
initially.
progress, right?
Yes.
I wanted to
You're gonna
ask,
leave?
this chart that was in the packet, who drafted that chart?
I did.
You did? Okay, because it also looked like maybe
Their logo.
it had a logo on here, it
No.
made me think that it come from the applicant.
I put it in the packet. They provided those three documents to you by cutting that out of
But
the
did-
staff
did-
packet and then adding
It's
all
her
the stuff that they
table,
did.
they plagiarized, to answer your question, they did not give her credit. There's no footnote.
Who did the work
All
to
right.
find the
They did
data
not
on
give you
the
credit.
I did the work. No footnotes. What the heck?
Okay,
I'm just kidding.
so my question is, what did you use to find that?
I went through our previous staff files and anything that was a type 1 special use. I
Because
cut and
I'm,
pasted.
I'm pretty sure
but-
there's some errors here.
Well, that's possible.
No, it's.
No, but this is,
It's different.
I'm
Different
asking
line.
questions because we got, I mean, we have to identify that stuff to fix it.
Okay, go ahead.
So
It's here.
Linda, that address on Linda, I'm pretty sure we denied that request at 1,200 square feet. I believe a building was built there. My assumption is that it's only 832 square feet. But that, I guess, is why it kind of
Okay.
raised my eyebrows a little bit, because I thought, oh, I know a building got put there, but I'm pretty sure we
was-
denied that. Or didn't approve it. I shouldn't say we denied it.
We did not deny it.
We didn't approve it.
We did not
So-
deny nor approve. He went back and sized 832, so he'd have to deal with
So
it.
my question is, was a building of 1,200 square foot built there?
Most likely.
Or,
No,
or is this,
that may be that it wasn't. I thought that anything that wasn't approved, I took out, but there's a chance that you didn't, or that you approved it. I looked at the approval letters. Maybe I didn't for that one.
because then what really, the other side of this that caught my eye is the very first one at 3660 Cherry Lane was a very contentious approval, which I believe the motion was made for up to 2,800 square feet. And I noticed that it would appear on here that the owner only went with 2,624 square feet. I just thought I'd point that out, that
Well,
they
I
didn't
think
build it
that's-
as big
Yeah.
as was offered. But then I saw the Linda one and I thought, oh, well, maybe all these numbers are wrong because it calls the whole thing into question.
But the 2,800 feet was the one that you ad-libbed at the last second, so the application was just, maybe she's one.
Hence why this should be included.
I know, the one you recommended denial, we didn't listen.
What was that? I know that there was.
The carport where he poured the cement slab.
But I don't remember.
We didn't approve it, though. I wouldn't say that we didn't give him a denial. We didn't approve it, and he never came back.
That's true, I guess there's two.
Yeah.
So there's two you recommended denial. She's talking about the handicap one. That's another one.
I think the ZBA set the standard on that, but yeah.
Okay, Scott, do you have some other items you want to cover?
No, I think I'm.
I have a couple questions. Number one, can you give us an update on the farmland preservation study?
At our meeting, when we sat down here, back, when was that, March 15? I thought I communicated to you guys, I handed out kind of the 3-tier system of how we were gonna handle that. And had asked till, mid to late June before we pick up anything on that. So we had determined that, we're not doing any more work on the farmland preservation until staff has a chance to catch up We did, by the way, we did hire Matty 2.0, as we call him. His name is Nick Govan. He started today. So, what did you say?
So thank goodness the name isn't Maddie.
I know, I know. Was there an Andrea? No, there was somebody else that would have been another name. It was a name that we already had, and I'm like,
Steve.
oh, goodness.
So it's Nick Golden.
Yeah, his name is Nick Govan. He's also Grand Valley State University graduate. He's got a planning degree. He is good with GIS. He's accepted the position. He started today. We were hoping to have him here this meeting, but we're gonna have him at the next meeting. And
Okay, the other question I had is, can we get, the, response to the lawsuit?
yes. I
Yes.
responded. Oh,
Oh, sure, we can, yeah, Andrea, if you don't have a copy of that answer, I can certainly send it to you.
perfect.
I would
As soon as I get it,
appreciate
I'll
that.
send it to you.
I'd like to see what the response was. Okay, member Bruno?
We're in the other business, right?
Yes.
Have we heard any more on the 5441 36th Street, the cease and desist? You said you sent them a letter and I drove by and ironically that day they were still doing construction.
So they have two permits. They have a special land use for the accessory building in the back. And they have a, they're just doing siding on the front building. So did you see work on the original building or on the addition?
When I drove by the day, it was on the addition.
Okay, please take pictures because we have issued a citation. They have submitted new plans. I have provided comments last week. They provided comments back and I haven't responded. It looks like it may have to come back to planning commission because there's the buffer yard that's required. They are not providing me with anything that meets those requirements. So we're kind of in this back and forth where they're giving me things and I'm giving them feedback and until they can bring us something that is approvable, it's not getting approved. So they should not be doing work
Okay.
on any of the addition. Do you recall?
It was that same day you announced it was cease and desist, so I haven't driven by since, so it was ironic, because like I said, in that meeting, when I drove by and you came to the meeting and said we issued them a cease and desist, and so I have not driven by since, so
Okay.
all might
it
be
wasn't-
good, that's why I was looking for the status.
Yeah, you didn't see anything today. I thought.
No,
I
I have
heard
not,
you.
no.
Okay.
Alan?
At the risk of having member Richardson come down here and give me a big hug, it would be my strong suggestion that somebody from the township drafts an email to the Kent County Road Commission. Because that new turn that they created on Whitneyville is going to kill somebody. And we need to have some sort of, we need to have some sort of documentation from the township saying, hey, we told you guys this turn was bad and that you need to come out and do something about it. Now somebody's dead. The onus is on you. We tried to cover ourselves legally because that is bad.
I think we would be covered legally.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the road commission, this is the second time on Cascade Road that they have put forth and told residents that they would do one thing and did something else.
Yeah.
When they changed the section from Thorncrest to 36th Street, they said that there would be a center turn lane from Thorncrest all the way to Layton. And then when the project was actually built, they created the center turn lane for Wycliffe to Layton. They didn't, so there's that little tiny stretch where there's no way to turn left onto Thorncrest if you're headed towards the river from, say, Whitneyville Road. And then this time, there were some residents that expressed concern right at that intersection, right as you approach Whitneyville, if you're headed east on Cascade Road, that they didn't have enough buffer to turn into their driveways. And the road commission said that they would engineer in the meeting, that it was in the open house in this room, that they would engineer it so that they had space to get onto their shoulder to turn into their driveways. And if you look at the way they did things, they did not give them any space. They actually have less space now than they had with the old road. So I strongly agree that they missed the mark on that project. As well as I could go on, they were supposed to, originally, they had said that when they paved from Snow to Buttrick, the concern was raised that they had not resurfaced from Buttrick to Whitneyville, because the last time that segment of road was resurfaced back around the year 2000, it was resurfaced from Whitneyville, Cascade all the way out to Snow. And then they said, well, when we do the section to 36th Street, we'll catch that little strip to Buttrick. They didn't do that strip either. So that section is 24, 25 years old now, and it's not even on their 5-year plan. So then that's why it's
How
like
about Cascade Road?
driving
has-
on a rumble strip.
Cascade Road has two different surfaces. You know, right there at Burton, it's like, I've never seen blacktop like that in my life.
Well, the rough,
That our township engineer, I believe, has received the same comments. I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure he spoke with the road commission, so I'll follow up with Eric, because he's well aware of the same
Good.
issues.
Please.
Tell them we're not happy with the job they did on Cascade Road too. I mean, it's two different surfaces. I've never seen that anywhere in my life.
From Burton Street to.
And I'm pretty
28th
sure
Street.
Ada and East Grand Rapids wouldn't allow that.
So
Did
that's
you-
that's a test plot. Kent County put a test plot in there from Burton to 28th Street. They did two different surfaces to see which one holds up better.
Oh, is that it? Okay.
Yeah,
one topic that's never come up though, that I'm surprised, I had kids home for the holidays and talk about never seen something before. Is it just the Bruno family? Are we blind? But Cascade Road does not have reflective stripes. Anyone else notice that? When it turns dark, you can't see the stripes.
Oh, you can't at all, especially when it's wet.
Exactly. I've never seen a road that has no reflectivity in the striping material.
It was just
Noticed
a bad
before, I'm
paint job.
usually doing 120.
Different contractor probably was more reflective.
Scott?
Thank you. Not to beat a drum here, the inventory list on accessory buildings, I think, and I could be mistaken, but the former list that we used to get, did that not also show the square footage of the home?
I just
Yes.
wasn't gonna do the math, so it probably exists
So
somewhere.
I'm wondering if you could find that and then just add to it what's missing, because that had all the approvals for like going back a number of years.
Did I mention that we have a full-time Maddie 2.0 that just started today?
Good, good, I like that.
This is
I-
gonna be good.
I
We can do
think it
something.
was very helpful in the presentation to do the percentage, right? Because that does put it
This
in
did, yes.
perspective,
In this
right?
case.
When you've got somebody that's got
Yeah.
46 acres and they're doing 1.5, and then you've got somebody with 5 acres who's doing 1.6,
Yep.
it puts it into perspective,
And
right?
so- I don't know if, I think I mentioned this in there, but what I couldn't do or didn't do, I probably could have, but it probably would have been overkill on time, is the accessory building size that I gave you in that chart was only representative of the one that came to planning commission for approval for something over 132 feet. But I didn't go to each of those and figure out if they also had another 800 square foot building or whatever. So that's kind of why I gave you the two calculations, but that's
It-
why I took that argument,
puts
because
it
I
in
agree with
perspective,
you.
Yeah, it's a-
Any other business? I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0.